My name is Larkin, and I have lived an amazing life. My family's incredible, they're loving, supportive, fun to be around. So many close-knit friends from all stages of this life. Many of these people I consider to be family. Health has always been just fine. I've always been financially stable. Looks, personality, and intellect are all serviceable. Most importantly, as I alluded to, I have a network of people who love me and whom I love. We've also lived this life in the Southeast, surrounded by so many decent-hearted and kind people. My family is entrenched in this deep and interesting Southern community in South Carolina and neighboring states. And we're so entrenched due to the fact that we have all lived our entire lives there, from my grandparents down to my nieces and nephews. So we're intricately intertwined in this network of people of all ages, and many of whom are family members themselves. And it has been a special life to live in a special place. It has been an all-American life, and it has been close to perfect, but it's not perfect. There's one major exception to all of this, one big fat asterisk. That asterisk is the fact that I'm gay, and that I'm absolutely devastated by it. Devastated. It pains me to say it now, and it will pain me to say it for many years to come. I'm particularly devastated by it due to the life I've lived and where I've lived it. No one's going around lynching the gays anymore. But being gay is socially devastating in the South and many other places of this country and this world. Most other places. You cannot live the life that you would have otherwise chosen to live. Being in the situation I'm in also causes me to be particularly baffled by all of this. How has this happened? How is this where things stand for homosexuals after all of these centuries of human beings and thus all of these centuries of gay people? How is this where we stand on the social ladder, at the very bottom, below thieves, all because of the way we were born and for something that we cannot change? How have we not evolved with the rest of society? Well, I've had close to 25 years to sit around and silently stew on how nonsensical this entire situation is, and I'm doing so with a uniquely vested interest. I think that gives me a unique outlook on this whole mess. And I think we've botched it. From the very get-go, and every single person involved, including people such as myself who've remained in the closet, this has been one massive botch. Our goal of acceptance is a very natural and fair desire. Our plan in getting there is off, and our brand is the worst brand in the history of this world. So I'm devastated by all of this, and I'm baffled by it. I'm livid with the circumstances, but I have to make the most of it. I have to look at this in a positive light because I do not think there is any way that God would put me on this earth in this life scenario to sit back and hide in the closet or to come out and just quietly accept the shame. So I moved to Atlanta with a plan to take the time and mapping out and writing a proposal for the complete overhaul of this world's approach to the concept of homosexuality. On the gay side, it says that we need to toss out our current plan and strategy and push forward with a rebranding of gay. And on the straight side, it says to just let the rebranding happen or help it happen because it makes absolutely no sense otherwise. It's a plea to gay people to never portray ourselves in a negative light. But that plea comes with justified rationale and a sensible, reasonable plan moving forward. While there is plenty of use of sarcasm and humor in making the various points, the ultimate tone of the book is upbeat and positive in that we can do this. We can take this next step towards acceptance, and now is the time to do it. Straight people of today are far different than the straight people of yesterday. They, for the most part, understand that we didn't make this call. And they almost are sympathetic to our situations, and in a way, they want us to take this next step. And so I say we press it. And we do so at the organizational level as well as the individual level. We have overcome police brutality and political criminality, but now we're left facing the social component. The social component is going to be far more difficult because A, we've had all the eternity of going about it the wrong way, but B, more importantly, is that there is no governing body or panel of lawmakers or judges who make a unilateral decision that all people are supposed to follow. Each individual makes their own call, and they're doing so without any criteria, guidelines, or public pressure, so we must be persuasive. The good news with the social component is that we know how to do it. If we don't want to be portrayed as weird, creepy, or grotesque, then we don't act that way. Society has chosen, and the commonly used definition of the word gay is certainly no longer an adjective meaning happy, and to an extent it's no longer an adjective describing someone who's attracted to other people of the same sex. It's an adjective that means bad, but really bad. bad in a shameful way. There is no greater insult in our language than to call someone or something gay. So we need to look at what created this. What caused the basis of the transitioning of a word's definition? It went from meaning us to meaning bad. So we need to look at what caused that and step away from these practices. And we can make these changes, as it is not a burden and it is not a sacrifice. And we must make these changes if we ever want to be accepted members of society. Note that I only mentioned police brutality and political criminality up above. We have overcome the essential elements. But these days, all of the high-profile fights and efforts, all wrong. We should have compromised on gay marriage long ago, called it a union, and demanded similar tax benefits. This way would have garnered some goodwill with those who, for whatever reason, have it out for us. And for those who don't otherwise care, we wouldn't have forced them to pick a team. The bathroom laws are a transgender fight and a transgender fight alone. It has nothing to do with homosexuality. And the flag and the parades are a drag on our progress because they represent and reinforce and at times provide a visual aid of the commonly used definition of the word gay, and that means bad. We must step away from these practices. If we want to be accepted, we must be acceptable to those doing the accepting. We need to fix our brand. We need to fix our brand because it's wrong. It's inaccurate. It's not a fair portrayal of people who are attracted to other people of the same sex. It's inaccurate in a very harmful way, so we need to correct it. As such, I would propose that we pool all of our resources and push forward with a full-bore rebranding of gay. A public relations blitz like this world has never seen before. We hire the best of the marketing professionals and the branding experts, and we tell them that gay marriage is now over with, and we are going to trim the fat on all of the other petty fights so they have a blank checkbook to go out to this world and prove that we are natural and normal just like everyone else. Engage celebrity endorsers, obtain top dollar promo spots, hire research analysts, host mega events. Do what you have to do to mend our brand. And as part of this, I would suggest that we consolidate all of the organizations into one machine, a PR powerhouse with a narrowly tailored plan to right a wrong and to rewrite history. We implement this plan to let the world know that we are ready to play in the big leagues and participate in all of the other perks that come along with the natural form of love. And then we sit back and we see what happens over the next 50 years. That said, there are certain areas where we can reverse course right now for immediate impact. We shift the parades to brief and compelling business-style seminars where panelists talk about how no one chooses to be gay. It's totally natural. And how gay people are meaningful contributors to our society and how to spread this information to every part of the world. And then we follow it up with red carpet-style black tie events where people from all walks of life get together to sip champagne, listen to hit bands, and celebrate what God has given to each of us. We replace the rainbow flag with our new organization's classy and classic logo, something bold and powerful, distinguished and refined, something that we can all be proud of. The rainbow flag has served its purpose. It was a sense of comfort and community at a time when people had nothing else. But now things have changed and we are past that level. And these days the flag is marred because it represents something that we aren't and that we don't want to be. So we need to retire it. We also need to retire the use of LGBT and any variation thereof. We call ourselves homosexuals because that's what we are, not transgenders and not queers. And I realize that suggests a greater divide at the organizational level. That's exactly what I'm saying. Transgender people and gay people are very different. Different issues, different needs, different circumstances, different fights. So it makes no logical sense for us to be lumped in together as one and the same as we each go about our respective civil rights battles. Bruce Jenner is a straight man who desired to transition into a female. Larkin is a gay man who is going to stay a man. These are polar opposite facts, yet in this twisted reality, these are the facts that bring us together, and that makes no logical sense. We need to separate. And I'm not saying that we kick them to the curb and become their adversary. I'm not saying that at all. We can still champion their efforts, support their causes, and generally help them in their struggle. But we need to separate so that we can each fight a focused fight. Policy-wise, we need to step away from fights over the terminology of a relationship or where someone goes to the bathroom and replace it with the fight to have sexual orientation written into every single civil rights law and diversity program that there is. If the collective conscience of our society has determined that these types of programs, these types of policies are beneficial to minority groups who've been treated poorly, then homosexuals need to be included across the board. This is a reasonable request and a meaningful agenda item because it actually can help. Or instead of demanding some loser bakery shop owner sell wedding cakes to gay people, we go to the bakery across the street where they'll sell you a wedding cake with a smile. Someone who you want to spend time with as you plan your wedding. Someone you want to give your business to. Not the jackass across the street trying to get us 15 minutes. And we take all that energy and time and resources and we demand scientific research into the root of homosexuality, and we demand that the results of that research be placed in science textbooks of all grade levels. This is another reasonable ask and meaningful action item. So I say that we make all of these changes. We get the media in on it to let the world know that we're doing it, and that we send our individuals out into this world to prove our place in the boardroom, the altar, and the Thanksgiving dinner table. Seeing as though, for the first time in my life, I'm a part of a minority group, straight people are the applicable majority, I take the position that the doctrine of political correctness affords me some leeway in trying to reason with the straights, so I do just that. From the outset, I acknowledge that I'm not talking about all straight people. I'm talking about the ones who actually care, the ones who spend time out of their daily lives trying to negatively impact the lives of homosexuals. So I'm not talking about the people who go about their daily lives not really thinking about gay people. Now, that might be the same people who'd use gay as their go-to insult, or who would be devastated if one of their kids were gay, or who have no gay friends, nor are they seeking them out. I'm not talking about these people. These are the people I think we can convince to accept us with a couple of quick system changes on the part of gay people. I'm talking about the people who actually care. The ones who wake up on a Saturday to go picket the gay parade, or who go to court on a Wednesday to try and fight gay marriage, or the people who fund those going to court. People who actually care. I start out by asking that exact question. Why do you care? Why on earth do you care so much about a group of people who you claim to have nothing to do with and who in no way negatively impact your life? Why do you care? Then goes into a discussion of how ridiculous it is to think that anyone would ever choose to be gay. Now, anyone claiming to think that is either lying or just the dumbest of the dumb. The primary piece, the part on straight people, is an analysis pushing back against what I call the faux religious war. And it makes the point that the Bible is absolutely not telling anyone to go out and hate on gay people. And while I take many angles in making that ultimate point, the underlying foundational basis is numbers. The Bible mentions same-sex sexual attractions maybe 4 or 5 times in faint references that are never further developed or clarified or emphasized or expanded. They're narrow and irrelevant to the rest of the point. Many of these references come as one item in a long list of things that include all-encompassing items such as greed, which includes everybody. The Bible never mentions gay marriage, not one single time. What the Bible does mention with profound emphasis, exampled repetition, is love. The Bible says to love, and it says it over and over and over again. In fact, Jesus Christ himself and Paul, the primary author of the New Testament, both rank love as the greatest commandment, the top concept from the Bible. So the militants in the faux religious war need to think about this. They appear to be breaching this top concept, and they're doing so in multiple ways. The first is that they are hating on a group of people. Hate, the opposite of love. And they're doing so due to the way that God created this people. Second, they're trying to degrade and denounce a form of love. God created, God orchestrated form of love, and they're doing so under the false guise of religion. So I think they need to rethink this. The faux religious war is the most ancient of all the fake news. Final piece, the part on straight people, serves as an introduction to the conclusion of the book, and it's a discussion of people who are in the closet, whether that be people such as myself, who are pretty much all gay and ultimately have to admit it, or the exact opposite of me, where you have only a tiny bit of same-sex attraction in you, and everyone in between. I refer to these people as the holdouts. I try to rationalize with the holdouts. If we all do this together, we come out of the closet in one big plunge, then we surge the number of homosexuals in this world, and thus we change this world. From the outset, I'm acknowledging that not all of these people are going to do this. Anyone who's more straight, and they are gay, is not going to admit that reality, not in this day and age. And it probably extends upwards to where someone is 60, 70, maybe even 80% gay. But ultimately, they can find a heterosexual spouse who they can start a family with. And that's what they're going to do because that is their higher quality of life. So I'm really looking at the people, such as myself, who have to come out of the closet because that is their higher quality of life. And to these people, I say, let's do this all together. I also acknowledge the fact that this group of people that I'm referring to as the holdouts is likely far more expansive than anyone would ever imagine. I make that point for 4 reasons. First is that as someone who is basically all gay, I have in my life, and could still be today, attracted to certain females. That's a faint attraction that's not going to form an adult relationship, but it's there. And so I am betting that the opposite of exists and that every single percentage there in between is represented. Second reason is the countless examples of out-of-the-closet homosexuals who have heterosexual families. They had enough straight in them to fake it, to start a family, even have kids. But ultimately, they were so overwhelmingly gay that they had to come out of the closet or they were outed while trying to hide it. And there are countless examples of this in the South and among conservative politicians and preachers. And I guarantee there's more out there. The third reason is that, unfortunately for me, out-of-closet homosexuals are a tiny speck of our world's population. And I don't think there is any way that that tiny speck could produce the demand to warrant the supply of the massive gay porn industry. Straight people are watching, and there is no other way of explaining it. Final reason is the most intimate personal detail of the book. It explains how in my life as a closeted homosexual, I have had same-sex sexual interactions with one male. It occurred over a relatively long period of time whenever the opportunity presented itself. That person now has a heterosexual family, a good-looking wife and kids. And I would be hard-pressed to believe anything other than the fact that that man is more gay than he is straight. So there's more of these people out there, and to these people, I say let's come together and collectively change this world. Every time you hear of an athlete coming out of the closet, if it's a male, it's typically a relatively unknown athlete who's doing so at the tail end or after his career is over. But every time you hear about it, our society stops right there. And people look at this and they say, wow, that person does not meet any of the characteristics of a gay person, and that person definitely did not choose to be gay. And right then and there, our society's perception of homosexuals shifts just a little bit for the better. So think what would happen if this occurred en masse. We need more of this. More athletes, more entertainers, more politicians, more people in the media, more business leaders. And we need it at the grandest scale, the international level, but we also need it at the local and regional level. So while we need the internationally known sports superstar or world leader, we also need the CEO in waiting of the power company, former high school athlete, turned frat star, and now home running the family business. We need people who straight people know and who they can connect with and relate to. And that will be another measure to help naturally normalize the concept of homosexuality. We also need people who gay kids and their families can relate to as they go through this tremendously difficult situation. And whether it be the person on TV or the family friend that you've always tailgated with, someone they can look to and say, wow, this person's in it with me. They know where I'm coming from. I am not alone. We can change this world by simply admitting the truth of this world. And we can change this world for ourselves today and for everyone there is to come. Being what it is, the book asking a minority to be accountable and a majority to be reasonable, doing a lot of thinking about the classifications of our society and the stereotypes of those classifications. It's following the introduction of the book, which lays out how downtrodden of a position gay people are in and how I'm right there with them. And prior to the discussion of the gays and the straights, there's a separate introductory piece that breaks down our society's classifications. And throughout this piece, the underlying question is this: why on earth are we categorizing ourselves based upon the way we're born rather than the way that we live our lives? And I made the point that going about it this way doesn't make any logical sense. Every race, gender, and orientation have bums and they have billionaires. And that's how the people should be classified, because that actually gives us some reliable information, something we can actually know about that person based on their classification. And at no time should a bum ever be classified with a billionaire or vice versa due to the way that their skin looks. I am white, male, and gay. That does not make me racist, sexist, and queer. We need to fix this. Our society, our government, our business community, our educational system, we need to toss out race, gender, and orientation as a categorical divide, except for the most obvious of uses, healthcare, or some type of a descriptor in an investigation. And we start categorizing ourselves by the way that we live our lives. That could be our occupations, our hobbies, or our interests, families we've created, our criminal records or lack thereof, whether or not you are a good person. We can start there. And we do this because it makes more logical sense, but we also do it because it's the right thing to do. Labeling someone based on something that they cannot change is fundamentally unfair. So I say we change our classification system. We adopt a new plan, one that is ethical and logical. Finally, there's the personal story. And it impacts the entire book because it's the basis of many of the points made in the book. But there's also a dedicated section following the discussion of gay strategy and gay stereotypes. It breaks down my life as a closeted homosexual living out a frat boy persona in the Deep South. It looks at my mindset. What do I do? In the early years, I thought something would just happen. A pill would be invented, something would just click, the perfect girl would come around, something. As the years went by, the options dwindled, and they really boiled down to three. Stage death, which I never really gave any consideration to. Living out the quote-unquote single life, which I actually did give some consideration to, which actually has its perks. It's ultimately unsustainable. Or admitting the truth to the world. So it takes a look at the difficulty of being gay in a very straight world. The times when I had to want the exact opposite of what my family and friends and the rest of society would want. Whereas my friends in college would absolutely want the girls to come back to the fraternity house after the bars closed because that meant the chance at a sexual encounter and the ability to be excited about it the next day. I did not want them to come back because that meant the burden of having to avoid a sexual encounter and then be embarrassed about it the next day. There are many other situations just like this that are so difficult to live with. As the years went by and I faced the facts that ultimately I'm going to come out of the closet, I'm going to admit all of this to my family and friends, I was able to get some humor out of the whole ridiculous situation. So the personal story also breaks down the strategies that I had to implement to deal with setups, both on the side of the person giving the setup and the side of the person receiving the setup, or the tactics I had to take to deal with the aggressive girl at a bar or a wedding. So the personal story is at times deep, and it's at other times humorous, but it's at all times unique, and something that I hope can help bolster this proposal for change. The book is written in a modern style and with a fresh tone, with clear influences in the era of email and text and social media communications. The points broadly summarized above are made with tons of pop culture and political references, and it has the benefit of being prepared with real-time observance of current events. I hope you find this all, the collective message, to be compelling, hopeful, powerful, productive, and funny. If we all start operating this world from a more rational line of thinking, then we can all move forward with our focus on love. Love. The Bible says that this is the most important concept, and regardless of your religious beliefs, this is something that we all naturally crave and adore. I think love wins, but we must act to ensure that.